Hello, my name is CJ Madeira. Today I just wanted to record a quick video and talk about the various conflicts that pastors can encounter working in a church. Um, I've been able to serve in ministry now for 6 years, and so a lot of conflict, even not as a pastor, you deal with conflict in a church. And so our book talks about a couple forms, three forms actually, of conflict. And the first one is interpersonal, and I'm sorry, interpersonal, and that one is the conflict that exists inside of us. And so, for example, for me, thinking through the tension between am I good enough, am I qualified, how am I coming across right now, the self-doubt, the self-talk, a lot of those things, a very interpersonal conflict. The second would be intrapersonal, and this is between others, so maybe a different pastor, a different lay leader on staff, and usually this has to deal with personality, behavioral clashing together. So, for example, the first church I worked at, I had the children's pastor on staff. We just didn't really mesh well. Just personality types and the way we led just didn't really go well together. And so there was a lot of conflict that we had to walk through and had to learn how. I had to really do some research about his personality type and his leadership style so that I knew how to better in the future walk through those things. And so I think that was a really, really good thing. And the last one would be substantive, and this is conflict that has to do with it is others related, but it's vision directed. It's outside things. Okay, and so right now, actually, where I'm at right now, we're walking through this at my church. Just as we're talking through what to do, we've got a space problem. We want to move to 3 services. But there's a lot of ideas around the table because our lead pastor loves to have ideas and a very round table mentality. But the problem is that now you've got 5 pastors on staff and other staff members that have a lot of ideas about how this is going to work out. And so there's conflict that arises because we each have valid points, but we tend to get entrenched into our own ways. And so these are the kind of conflicts. Honestly, I would say that intrapersonal and substantive are the 2 main. Well, they're all huge ways that pastors are gonna interact with, but those are the ones that really you're gonna hear more about because they're not internal. Interpersonal absolutely is one that probably on a more regular basis you're going to deal with, but the ones that will get talked about in staff meetings, the ones that people leave church over, usually those are the ones that are others focused. And so one of the tasks that we've been talking about this week is positive methods in addressing these conflicts, because that's a huge deal, because there's going to be conflict. There's people, there's human, there's sin. You just can't avoid it. And so as a pastor, how do you deal with that in a positive way? It's easy to wipe your hands of it and shake your hands and leave and never have to deal with it again, but that's not biblical, and that's not the way we're supposed to do it. Our book actually on page 219 has a really good, which I found to be good method, how to address conflict, and that's to delay our action, to kind of think about maybe if we're not involved in it, to think about it, to kind of weigh it and just hear both sides, gather information. But if we are, I know for me being involved in it, it's definitely helped to cool down. I have some time where I just kind of take, and I know that I shouldn't deal with it right now because I'm going to be too close to the situation. So I want to stop and pause and let some time pass and then deal with it in a timely manner. And actually in Matthew, both 5:23 through 25, and then Matthew 18:15 through 17, specifically, I believe it's in Matthew 5, Jesus talks about how there's a time frame that you want to deal with these things, and that you shouldn't let too much time go. But I think there's a healthy balance of taking that time to cool down and not react in our anger. The Bible tells us to do that as well, to not act out in anger, but to do it with a level head. And so one of the things that I found to be very effective is establishing a foundation. And what I mean by that is, as conflict arises, having someone come in and from the very beginning of the conversation, just talking about the biblical idea of forgiveness and that model, and really trying to lay a foundation that, hey, my goal here is reconciliation. It's not to drive wedges and create more friction, but actually I'll go to whatever length I have to restore this. And so I found it to be very helpful to just start that way and say, look, my heart here is this. I want to restore. I want to walk through this. I want to admit my wrongs, and I want you to admit your wrongs, and I want you to challenge me and point out. And so it just creates a very level playing field, and I found that to be very, very helpful. And then the last kind of point of this video is to talk about, can conflict be positive? And I would say absolutely, especially looking back at what I just mentioned, that as we open these doors of communication and invite people in to say, um, to talk about what's really going on, and to say, hey, look, my heart here is restoration. My heart is love and caring. And so, let the walls down for a second. Understand that sometimes in love there's going to be some abrasiveness, and if we can move past that and forgive, then I think that what it does is it creates a positive. And we know from Romans that God works all things together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And so I think that with that specifically in mind as well, with conflict, Paul, my goodness gracious, the New Testament church, really conflict all the time they were faced with. And so, but for me, even I've had opportunities with a youth leader that I've had on my staff before, and just made some really stupid choices, and just kind of that oil and water, like I said, that intrapersonal conflict where we didn't really mesh well together. And I had to just talk to him and lay that foundation. And you know what? Honestly, it created a great relationship and allowed me to speak truth into his life and vice versa. And so I would say absolutely, conflict is positive. And I think that as a pastor, as we view it as a positive thing and how to make it positive and let God do His work, it just sets us up for success. And so those are my thoughts, those are my insights, and I hope you guys enjoy. Have a great night.